actress. Her workout videos are bestsellers, and she's led a quiet, private life as the mother of two and the wife of Tom Hayden, a California legislator. But the controversy over her political activism all those years ago remains. In fact, since word got out that we were doing this story, our switchboard has been overwhelmed with angry phone calls.
And it's this, of course, her political past that is currently arousing bitter protest in an otherwise quiet corner of New England. She's filming a new movie there this summer, one that has nothing to do with Vietnam. But Fonda's mere presence has stirred strong feelings. It all goes back, of course, to her anti-Vietnam War activity. And tonight, Jane Fonda speaks to Barbara openly about her contentious past and her feelings about this now as she confronts the heat of the moment.
The Pioneer Valley, tranquil, historic, and along this section in western Massachusetts, almost quaint. The small cities of Holyoke and Chicopee, nestled in this lush valley, seem an unlikely site for conflict, but it's here. You can almost hear a town crier, "Jane Fonda is coming, Jane Fonda is coming."
Do not make this woman feel welcome in the city of Chicopee.
I think Jane should make her movie on Paramount Lot in Hollywood or wherever, but anywhere but Chicopee.
And further south, in the Connecticut city of Waterbury, the same controversy is bubbling. This one-time mill city where the Industrial Revolution flourished and then faltered is also a location for the Fonda movie.
I believe the citizens of Waterbury are not Fonda, and that is what the outcry is right here.
What she did, there is no excuse for. There's never been an apology for. And they say Patton slapped one soldier, but Fonda has slapped thousands.
To understand what's happening here, you have to turn the clock back to a time when the name Jane Fonda was synonymous with sex symbols.
It's a wonder woman.
The time is 1968. The movie, Barbarella. Fonda, just turned 30, was cast as a fantasy figure, but reality was intruding on her life. She was living in Europe then, married to Barbarella's director, Roger Vadim. It was in Paris that she first became acquainted with the anti-war movement, a movement in which she became a prominent figure in this country and overseas.
1,300 on a ship, Coral Sea, said no to the Vietnam War.
She traveled with a road show called Free the Army, performing anti-war skits for GI.
Oh, sir!
And in 1972, she made a visit to Hanoi. It was a time when the war was supposedly winding down, but U.S. bombing of the North was being stepped up. Civilian areas were being hit. Fonda said she wanted to expose this and help end the war. Many Americans shared her feeling, but Fonda got most of the attention. North Vietnamese cameras focused avidly when Fonda visited an anti-aircraft installation used against American planes, tried out the gunner seat, and seemed to enjoy it. The image inflamed passions here at home, and still does in the New England communities where she'll be filming this summer.
She wasn't tried, arrested, or convicted of any crime. Why shouldn't she come here? That's what I fought for. Her freedom to do what she wants.
In fact, most people want Fonda to come, want her movie to be made here. The majority attitude seems to be forgive and forget, and many feel the movie would be a boost to the area's economy. But a continent away, the controversy bothers Jane Fonda, so much so that as she prepared to leave California for her trip east next week, she asked if we would talk with her about it. It was the first time she had talked at any length about that period in her life, in the country's life, that left so many scars. Why do you think it is that when so many people protested the war, thousands protested the war, and so many did go to North Vietnam, why are your actions today still being criticized? Why is it still so painful?
The war was a very divisive and very confusing tragedy for all of us. But because I don't think we've ever resolved what the war meant, there are still festering wounds and a lot of pain, and for some I've become a lightning rod.
What lingers in people's mind, what angers many people, was the trip that you took to Hanoi in 1972. And there is that famous picture of you aboard the North Vietnamese anti-aircraft gun. Tell us how that happened. Did you realize the effect that it would have?
No.
What were you doing climbing on that gun?
that was a thoughtless and careless thing to have done. For someone like me I'm in the communication business, I know the power of images, to have put myself in a situation like that was a thoughtless and cruel thing to have done. It was quite normal for visitors to North Vietnam to visit military sites, anti-aircraft guns. You're given a helmet to put on.
They give you, the North Vietnamese give you the helmet.
Yeah.
Did they encourage you to get on a gun?
I'm not sure. I take full responsibility for it. I was not a kid. You know, the responsibility is mine.
Even though you say you take full responsibility, as you look back, do you feel that you were at all duped by the North Vietnamese for propaganda purposes?
No, I don't. I really don't. I mean, I don't remember being led to this gun. I mean, I'm a strong woman. I'm naive and I make mistakes, but it was my fault that I sat there. You know, I mean, I was a big girl. I could have said, no, I can't do this. It was my fault.
While you were there, you made radio broadcasts.
Yeah.
This is the first time that Jane Fonda's words from Hanoi have been broadcast in America. These recordings were made by U.S. intelligence and were recently discovered by 2020 in government archives.
And I'm speaking particularly to U.S. servicemen who are stationed on the aircraft carriers in the Gulf of Tonkin. I don't know what your officers tell you, those of you who load the bombs on the planes. But one thing that you should know is that these weapons are illegal, and the use of these bombs, or the condoning the use of these bombs, makes one a war criminal.
You asked American soldiers to disobey their orders. You called their officers, the ones who were saying drop the bombs, you referred to them as war criminals.
I don't remember calling soldiers war criminals, but I do definitely recall saying that the weapons that were being used were illegal. They'd been outlawed by the rules of warfare. I wanted to say to them, let's think about what we are doing, all of us, because it's as much an American tragedy as it is a Vietnamese tragedy.
Among the people listening to the broadcast, and maybe the people it might have particularly affected, were some of our prisoners of war. We spoke to one of them. He is not necessarily representative of the way former prisoners of war feel about you. I know that you've met many of them, and I know that you touch each other. But this is a point of view. We would like you to hear it.
When you hear an American citizen speaking on the loudspeakers on the streets in Hanoi and you're in a cell block, it has a great impact. It's kind of hard to keep going. I felt betrayed and hurt. Now, looking back at what happened through the years, I understand why so many Americans were dissenting over Vietnam. But I don't think that right to dissent extends to the capital city of the enemy in time of war.
This is Captain Eugene McDaniel, and he was in a North Vietnamese prison and heard your broadcast. Do you have any reaction to that?
I understand, you know, that he has his point of view. I feel that those of us who opposed the war, including those who went to Hanoi and brought back documented information about what was going on that wasn't getting out, that we helped end the war. And what that meant was that the POWs came home sooner, that the killings stopped sooner. So I feel that we played a part in bringing them home. And now, the actions that many of us chose to take in the process of helping to make that happen may be difficult for them to understand, especially, you know, the men who suffered the most, who were POWs. But we all did what we felt we had to do. I am proud of most of what I did, and I am very sorry for some of what I did. And one of them was sitting in the anti-aircraft gun, and one of them was criticizing the POWs, or at least some of the POWs when they came back. Because whether or not all of the POWs were tortured is beside the point.
Yes, what you said was that some of them were not tortured as they had claimed, as I remember it.
What about these men now that are commenting back home, saying that when you came to Hanoi, that they were tortured?
I think they're lying. I think they're lying, and I think they're not only going to have to live with the fact that they were carrying out acts of murder for the rest of their lives, they're also going to have to live with the fact that they're lying on their consciousness. It was not a policy of the North Vietnamese to torture prisoners.
There were some of the POWs who came back that said that looked like they were saying that it was across-the-board policy to torture POWs. And it's beside the point. They suffered. They suffered enough. They didn't need to hear from me. I was angry that Nixon was using their return to make the war look noble, to make the war look all right, trying to rewrite history using the POWs. And I was angry, and I popped off, and I shouldn't have done it. I think the reason I was so angry is because I was a believer. I mean, I grew up, my father fought in the Second World War. He was, I always knew that he was very patriotic. He brought me up to be patriotic. He always taught me that you stand up for what you believe and you speak out when you care. And I couldn't believe that our country would ever be doing something that was wrong.
You know, it is interesting that there is this very strong reaction to you. And yet again and again, when they're the list of the most admired women in the United States, you are in the top of that list. It's such a dichotomy. Do you understand it? Do you think there's something about your personality that makes people either like you so much or dislike you so much?
Could be. I'm not very politic. I get emotional, I speak, and less so now than I used to, but perhaps there was something about the way that I expressed myself.
We're not being very funny today,
no.
But you do have a very good sense of humor. That was something that nobody ever saw then. Maybe you didn't have it then.
I don't think I did. You know, I saw this movie, Good Morning Vietnam. Have you seen it?
Yeah.
And I watched Robin Williams on his radio programs, and I thought, if I'd had Robin Williams with me, Good Morning Vietnam, essentially the message was the same.
In 1971, in Life magazine, I hate it when people dig up old clippings, but here I'm going to do it to you. You said, comes with the territory. As a revolutionary woman, I'm ready to support all struggles that are radical. What about you today? Would you still describe yourself as a revolutionary woman?
No, and it was I think preposterous that I described myself then as a revolutionary woman. I didn't even know what that meant. You know, I had made Barbarella 2 years before. I think that my biggest mistake was trying to create legitimacy, rapid legitimacy within a movement that was, in a way, beyond my comprehension. It had gone from idealism to a sectarianism and a stridency that I didn't understand. But I didn't want to be thought of as some starlet. I wanted to be taken seriously, and so I used words and rhetoric that, I mean, it sounds strange to my ears now. It must have been really preposterous coming out of my mouth at the time. I'm not proud of it. I try to learn from my mistakes.
Jane, you wanted to do this interview because there were some things that you wanted to set straight, and we wanted to come and do this interview. There are still people who, I guess, feel you have never apologized. Would you like to just say something to them now?
Well, it's not... I would like to say something, not just to the Vietnam veterans in New England, but to men who were in Vietnam who I hurt, or whose pain I caused to deepen because of things that I said or did. I feel that I owe them an apology. My intentions were never to hurt them or make their situation worse. It was the contrary. I was trying to help end the killing, end the war. But there were times when I was thoughtless and careless about it, and I am very sorry that I hurt them. And I want to apologize to them and to their families.
You know, I wonder if this appearance of hers will tend to heal the wounds, or, if the bitterness is going to continue.
Well, there certainly were a lot of bitter phone calls, but before this piece ran. But she is sincerely trying to heal those wounds. The majority of the people in the small towns seem to feel forgive and forget. And we should point out that she didn't have to say what she said tonight. She wanted to. She came forward voluntarily.
That's right. Some of those still inflamed about her actions, though, wonder why she wasn't charged with treason at the time. I think that's worth an explanation.
She commented on that, and she said that the Justice Department, as you can imagine, did a thorough investigation, and they never found evidence or grounds to justify criminal charges.
Formal traitors are few in number in this country, and treason's a heavy charge. Thank you, Barbara. Well, next, a remarkable pilgrimage. Stone Phillips goes to a Yugoslav town where a vision of the Virgin Mary inspired millions to begin a journey to faith.
2020, brought to you by Compaq, maker of the most powerful personal computers. Compaq, it simply works better.
You've suffered through all kinds of diets and regimens, but if you don't get enough protein when you're dieting to lose fat, you might lose muscle. Protein can help you keep muscle while you lose fat, and Special K has the highest level of dietary protein available in a cereal. So one reason for including the under 200 calories Special K breakfast in a balanced